Hey, good afternoon. 421. All right. We had 60 seconds and I really thought we could get there. Cynthia,
You
really,
scared me.
when I say places, everyone,
I
I
I did. I
do.
put my snacks down. I
You're
smiled.
the snacks down smile. Right. Outstanding. Hey, welcome to Florida Cannabis Action Network's Elevated Intel at 420 on Fridays. Your place to come for all of the most interesting news of the day. I'd like to welcome you. My name is Jodi James, and I am here in Melbourne, Florida, coming to you live. And I've got Cynthia Brewer, the beautiful, talented,
Ooh,
intelligent, radiant
this is
Cynthia
nice.
Brewer.
I can get used to this. Let's just do that the whole show. It'll be
Yay, we
great.
could. It'd be
No,
good.
no,
Well, and
you're too
I
kind.
wouldn't be the only one saying nice things about Cynthia.
Well, that's a very nice thing. That makes me feel nice and warm and fuzzies as we're
Well,
about to break all the horrible information. It's not great information. Nothing's horrible. It's just troublesome.
just troublesome. And we've got some listeners and some viewers that are tuning in with us. Thank you very much for tuning in live this Friday afternoon. There's going to be a lot of great information discussed where we do a deep dive. We also have Hector Roos. He is off camera right this minute. And if you are commenting
Hi.
in the chat group, it may take an extra minute because it's going to be me today. We are missing our dear friend Steve Thal, but he will make sure that this is available later on YouTube and on Spotify. So, all right, we are here for you. Welcome. Cynthia, how
Yes,
are you today?
I'm well. I'm good. I mean, like when
Beautiful
you
and
have,
radiant,
well, thank you.
smart.
That's great. I was gonna put my 12th man flag behind me just so all the listeners know that my team is going to the Super Bowl. And I'm so like in 1 week, I lost my dog and my team goes to the Super Bowl. So emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Somebody's testing me. I'm like as stable as an IKEA table right now. So how are
How
you?
fitting.
You're
No
home.
offense to no offense to Nakia, of course.
Well,
No,
you build it yourself. So
yeah, well, there is that. So the fault is not Nakia. I am tired.
I know.
I'm tired.
From
I'm
drive, you
tired.
don't look tired because when people say
No,
that, that's rude. You look great, but I know you're tired because you did the drive.
I
The
did.
drive
It's a
from
horrible drive.
Tallahassee home, and it's a long one.
Right. But we said in the comments to, about this program that we were going to talk about turf wars and battles won. And it's good to start with battles won, right?
Yes,
We'll get to
absolutely.
the turf wars. Battles won. I did drive to Tallahassee. I had hoped to be home this week. So those of you who tune in every week, and we thank you for following us like that. I was in Pensacola last week getting ready for the Crew to Cannabis Ball.
The ball.
When we were looking at the legislation and what was going to be on the agenda for this past week, nothing was going to be on the agenda. So no reason for us to, be there and expend the energy to be there. There's always things that we can do, but it does cost the organization to have us there. So I'm just going to go home. I'll get some other things done. And Tuesday afternoon, 4 o'clock, we've told you before that we may only have like 2 days notice. We kept saying 72 hours.
We got like
Wrong.
less than that.
Less than
Yeah.
48 hours. So Hector Roos and I hopped in cars. Jeff Demond and Terre Demond and Andy Dom,
The Grateful
the vice
Veteran.
president of Grateful Veterans, all jumped in cars and we converged on the Can House. Thank you all who supported us with donations this year. We're still a little bit short of what we need to get through the whole session, but it meant that we could have 6 people in the house. So heads in beds
Immediately. Like so
immediately.
the drive out there, the call to action, the pick up everything you're doing and drop it, and then get in the car, make it to Tallahassee, and you have a bed to lay your head. That's really
100%.
it's a luxury that we are very honored and happy to have. But yeah, it's a cost. And so donations are always enthusiastically accepted with enthusiasm. So just do it.
100%. Well, and I'll tell you, we have also been participating in doing overflow at the Citizens Action Center there in Tallahassee, where people can get a bed, a clean bed, and a place to stay that's really affordable. You know, we're not talking hotel rates, $100 a night or whatever. But even the activist center was full last week at the beginning of the week, and so we were getting overflow at the Florida Can House. So, you know, I, your voice is the thing that you own, and it's the one thing that that you can really make a difference. What was the Joan Baez? Hector was walking the halls with me, and there were a group of young activists, 20 somethings, teens, and they were wearing a Joan Baez quote about how the solution to despair is action.
I was not even close when I was going to guess.
No, but it was fabulous. I mean, really, this is a tough time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at it. What can I do? You can register to vote. Okay, that's good. You can certainly be active on social media. Excellent. But right now, the action is in Tallahassee, and if you're someone who loves cannabis, that's where we need to be seeing you, is up in Tallahassee. Hector, you made the drive. What inspired you?
I'm still making the drive.
Yeah, I was supposed to
Oh
say
yeah,
he's in process.
right, trying to get home.
Yeah, it's a whole process. Well, I mean, I could say it's Cynthia's fault, but really, it's what put the final burn under me was two things. One was that Department of Health should rethink about who's putting together legislation for them, because we have a lot of things to say about it, and that are uh, glitches, adding more glitches into glitches. That's the phrase of how they call it.
So
But more the second thing is the
let's
second thing,
clarify
and
what
more
you mean by
importantly,
my fault, though. What was it that I
sure.
want everybody to know exactly what it was that was Cynthia's
So
fault?
so every year there are bills that come out that are sponsored by various departments. So FTAX comes out with one, Department of Health comes out with corrections, you name it. The Department of Health one comes out, and it has instead of having, there's a couple different definitions of playgrounds in the Florida statutes, and they decided to link a prohibition on where you could put new or renewed, that is MMTCs, uh, and they linked it to the definition of, or the prohibition of that match is the same for sex offenders and parks.
Yeah.
So basically, you would have to either have no new MMTCs anywhere in the state that people want to go to. And the person who spotted it and pointed it out to me was Cynthia Marie Brewer.
You think you're doing
So
people a service, and they are not appreciative in the slide. No, I'm just kidding. I'm glad that you went. I'm glad that we were able to discuss it on the
100%.
legislative call that's hosted by FLCAN on Wednesdays during session. It's an invaluable time for everyone to come together. We had a bunch of people on that call on Wednesday.
Great.
I think at one time there was over 25 people getting the information that we were giving. And sometimes, yeah, like we have the bills, we have the language, we go through it, but like the citations, if you don't dig into the citations, they could be using the same definition of sex offenders for the word park, which is really upsetting. So, Jodi, when you were there, you gave testimony along with
100%.
Jeff gave testimony for the Grateful
100%.
Veteran, the veterans card, the discounted card for veterans passed its first committee.
Battles won.
That is a huge thing, and I'm glad they heard it first. I'm glad they heard it first.
One of six, right? We have 6 steps on our veterans bill this year. So all of our listeners need to realize that just because you've been win a battle doesn't mean you win the war.
There's already news stories saying that it
100%.
And that is accurate, but it's not right.
I know.
So there are 6 steps. We passed the first hurdle, and we have several more to do. And people who are following Florida Cannabis Action Network, we're going to continue to have action items for you to do. Right. So to keep moving this bill forward. You wanted to add something, Hector?
Yeah, we need help as an organization, because there is work to do. there is a lot of interest this year. We you know, the to sum it up, the medical marijuana laws in Florida really have not been touched since the beginning. It's been over a decade,
True.
in some cases, and we're seeing so much interest this year, over 25 bills, and every day we find something else that's another proposal tucked away in some kind of corner of some legislation that also affects the program, affects consumers, patients. That we're going to send out alerts and ask people to be involved, and people, if you care, you need to show up. Either if not in person, certainly by email, phone, or telling people to come to a hearing. Oh, I can't. Oh, then email them. I can do
100%.
that,
Make a
right?
phone
Do
call.
something.
And that
Yeah.
Do
and that's what
something.
and
More
that's how
than zero.
important this is how important it was. This was such a short time frame to get people there.
Mhm.
That I said I decided to come from Miami to Tallahassee and back, which is
Putting in the
800
work.
miles.
Putting in
Right?
the
So-
work.
Plus,
I want to back up because not everybody's following everything we're doing all the time. So
Right.
a little clarification. This week in Tallahassee on Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m., we had the Health Professions and Programs Subcommittee. Yeah, right. That's a mouthful. Chaired led by Chair Kaylee Tuck. That particular committee had like 6 bills on the agenda. The first bill up was 877. Oh, 887. 887, our veterans bill. We're super excited. This is the card that is going to maintain $10 that goes to FAMU for education. It's going to ensure that the card program is paying for itself, and it's going to give a $60 discount to veterans, which is almost an 80% reduction in fees for our veterans. I think that the testimony I was able to give for that bill was pretty exciting. The federal government is moving very quickly, or as quickly as the federal government can move, to try and create some of these clinical trials and to get cannabis-based medicines into the hands of our citizens. And the state of Florida is not waiting. We're going ahead and carving out a space in our program for veterans. So not only is it going to reduce the cost for veterans by 80%, but it'll start to track how many veterans we have in the Florida program. So I think both of those are a win. We're very proud of Representative Valdez for doing the work on her end that it takes. And of course, our compatriots with the Grateful Veterans, Battle Buds, Weed for Warriors. These organizations have been up there for many years alongside Florida Cannabis Action Network making this happen. But again, this was only the first of 6. Second up in that committee was the Department of Health bill. Hector alluded to the fact that each of these departments all have a bill that will make it all the way through. And the devil's in the details. HB 733. 733 was heard also on Thursday morning. And before we had looked at the bill, if you just read it in a quick minute, you went, oh, that's okay. Oh, we're not going to let, dispensaries be next to parks. That's probably a good idea. We're going to let the doctors decouple their license. We're going to redefine low THC. All of these things were in this bill that really, when we started doing an in-depth, and Hector said, Cynthia came prepared to our meeting to tell us all about it. So
It went a little overboard because
not at all.
you know how I get a little excitable, a little extra, but at the same time,
Beautiful, talented, smart.
even I was duped because I was looking in my binder of awesomeness. My notes, like if I read a bill and I like it, I highlight it in green, all of the parts. And if it's not liked, it's red. And if I don't know, it's orange. That bill was green until I dug deeper and I looked up some of the language citations, and then it was red. So everybody missed it. It was, I'm just glad we caught it at the first committee, because there's other things that have passed through multiple committees that we have not caught. until now.
Right. Right. Well, and you know, it's just a tribute to what how tricky these words can be.
Mm-hmm.
Again, would you have dreamed that they would define where you can put a medical treatment facility? Who came up with the idea that we should use sex offender language?
Well, the
So
thing
the
that got,
lawmakers loved it. You could see their eyes were like,
yeah,
really? Because
we
my
couldn't see them.
testimony,
We couldn't see them.
oh, that's too bad.
We saw you.
My testimony was like, well, do you want your grandma going to get her medicine where only sex offenders can go? I mean, you know, really, what are we thinking here? But you know, the more I got into it, I'm wondering how much of this is backlash on their perception that we're going to have legal marijuana.
The thing
So
is what is wrong with the current length from a school's post-secondary K through 12 middle school that we currently have? Because we've been operating under these rules for a while. For them to throw in additional stipulations that include but are not limited to at-home daycare centers run by individuals, they could be all over the place, and then
which is
also
hardly a secondary, right?
virtual schools, and the definition of park that they cited is what I brought up, that shows that park as defined in the language outlined for sex offenders and where they can and cannot go, they has tied us to that. But then in that language, it says pretty much any place that kids could like to congregate. Well, that's like everywhere.
Right. Well, and you know, if I'm in a strip mall, or at the edge of a strip mall, and there happens to be something in the strip mall that is attractive to children, a game room or something like that, that's going to preclude me from being able to do business there. This was really an insidious bill too, and because what the Department of Health, when I spoke to them after, and that's one of the advantages of actually being able to be there, is I was able to have dialogue with the Department of Health folks, get some clarification on some other things that Florida Can is working through. And they seem genuinely surprised with the idea that, well, you know, we've got 22 businesses who have received authority to move forward and are waiting to get their license, but these locations are not already permitted, despite the fact that they've been holding leases on them for more than 2 years. So now you've had a lease on a building for 2 years, and the law is going to change, and you're not going to be able to use the location that you've literally been paying on for 2 years. And then what about when I sell my business and the new owner has to come in and get their licensing and their paperwork? And at that point, they bought a business with 42 active dispensaries or however many the business has, and you find out that you have to move 7 of them because you are not the original license holder and you are not grandfathered in cities bill. So we're going to work on that. I thought you brought up a great point, Cynthia, about decoupling the licenses. And again, this is kind of complicated stuff, which is why we do a deep dive here at Elevated Intel. But the decoupling of the license means that your physician could miss his renewal for his medical marijuana certification, not do his 2-year, and suddenly you go in and find that you're not in the registry because your doctor is no longer a qualifying physician. Hector, good time for me to check what's happening online.
Hey, just wanted to jump in about the DOH bill. So these bills, just a reminder, are regular annual bills that need to be passed that fund the departments. So they're adding all sorts of extra stuff in there. Is what we're paying attention to. But one of the things that wasn't mentioned really is really, again, as I said, some of these, they're touching on policies that have been in the books for over a decade in some cases. One of them happened to be redefining low THC CBD products,
Right.
which
Those THC cannabis.
Yes, the cannabis products, right, for the people who need CBD dosage for their medical. They're prescribed that, in fact. And I was one of the aspects of my testimony was that it's a mandate on the industry as it is, and they were trying to shrink the their language had the opposite intended effect. They're trying to grow the supply. Well, in fact, they're changing the cap. They're actually putting a more stringent cap on the formula. So they would be reducing the supply available in the market with that's their unintended consequence. So we're not saying necessarily that people are have poor judgment, but they're certainly making mistakes if they have good intentions. And one of the things I was commenting is that these mandates have been in place so long, and the businesses have reacted by simply, well, we're just going to ignore the mandate and pay a fine because it costs us more to provide these kind of products than than what we can sell, right? It's not as profitable. They're responding to their market pressures, and I'm telling a mostly Republican committee there, like, well, maybe we really should. The solution really is to just get rid of the mandate in the first place and stop finding the businesses, and maybe we'll actually get some more supply, but because there is some demand in place as it is. So rather than so that's where I'm at this point, and I'm really, when I was talking to Jodi about it, I was actually very impressed by the idea that nobody else has talked about putting in like free market reforms in this program at all. Just more tweaks, more restrictions, more mandates, and like, well, no wonder we have in Florida that as a result has one of the worst programs in the country, for medical. Anyway, that's my
we do have some comments. Thank you, David McKinney, for watching. Dave serves on our board of directors. We appreciate it. It looks like we've got some of our friends from the Grateful Veterans. They're telling us how wonderful Hector is, and of course we all agree on that. So I see Matt Moses on. Welcome, Matt. Glad to have you. And Adam from Vice President of the Grateful Veterans. And Gus can't get on, but really he's been the star of the show in Tallahassee. He's Jeff DeMond's service dog. So that's a lot of what our week looked like in Tallahassee. I know we kind of rambled on about it a little bit today, but this was a pretty important week, and the things that are happening in Tallahassee every day really do impact your life and how we move forward with this program. But I think you had a couple other things on your list of things that we were going to deep dive into today, Cynthia. What you got for us?
Don't know where to start. So let's see, benign bills that end up becoming the Tallahassee Telenovela. That is our life. So unfortunately, just like the DOH bill, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, is better known as FDACS to those who know, they have managed to get through a bill that was not on the radar for any of us, because when we go into the program or flsenate.org and we go searching for all the nonsense, we go by keyword, by statute, hemp, cannabis, marijuana, 381,986, 381,988, 5K, whatever we need to find the language and pull it out, because they do need to cite what they're going to change in the bills. But Wilton Simpson and this crafty little ass, he decided to use the language food derived from plants. So instead of saying hemp derived ingestibles or hemp extract food products, he said food derived from plants, which would not have been on our radar. It wasn't on my list. So SB 290, which is sponsored by who we care very deeply for because of the Veterans Bill, Senator Truenow. I'm not going to hold him accountable for this. I'm going to say that this was definitely driven from the FDACS group, but it made it through two different committee assignments so far. So SB 290 made it through Agricultural Committee with yay to nay 4-0, Fiscal Policy with 17 yays and 3 nays, and then it ended up in Rules, which would be the last stop for them. Rules Committee is headed and chaired by Kathleen Pasadomo. Now, the issue, the story, the salaciousness of it is Wilton Simpson decides to go online and say somebody is actively trying to keep this bill from passing and making it to the floor. And that person is Kathleen Pasadomo. But after looking at it, that's not what happened. What happened was Sorry, my neighbor's mowing his lawn. I think he hit like a cat or something. Sorry. Please forgive me.
More than
So
one way to skin a cat.
yeah, so after looking at the video footage, the bill sponsor, Senator Turnout, withdrew the bill. And Kathleen Pasadomo, the chair of the Rules Committee, decided to allow the public comment. She said, and I quote, there are many people here that have submitted speaker cards that have come from very far. They have weathered the inclement weather and they are here. Now, whether you want to pull this bill from the schedule is your choice, but I think they should all be able to provide public testimony. That is kind of unheard of, but it was very fair, in my opinion. It wasn't the chair of the committee pulling the bill, it was the sponsor that pulled it. His reason for pulling the bill off the schedule was because he said he wanted to have ongoing conversations with industry stakeholders and other key personnel involved in this. So that's your choice, but she allowed public testimony. I've yet to hear all of it, but I think it's awfully saucy. Now, when we get
Wow.
into the meat and potatoes of the bill, how does it affect the hemp and cannabis space? Well, by then, if you don't know already, short history lesson 381986, which is what we are governed by in the medical program, it does say that Department of Health and FDACs have to play together. They have to be friends. They have to regulate together and hold hands. And since that was implemented, they have not been able to be in the same room together. They are not friendly. They are not working together. Hemp, Wilton Simpson, Department of Ag, cannabis, DOH, and all of the directors we've gone through. But they did have language that said, you will do enforcement together. You will implement the language together. And they just chose not to play well. This does affect us because the bill strengthens enforcement power of Department of Ag. So all of a sudden, Wilton Simpson is very enthusiastic about enforcement in both hemp, which will equate to cannabis enforcement as well. Consumable products, labeling, inspections, faster enforcement on inspections. He's asking for a lot of power.
And all of this is on food derived from plants.
Well, the
wants
bill
more
is
inspection.
the FDAC's bill, the Department of
Right.
Agriculture bill, just like every
Okay.
year.
And within it is more inspection.
Oh,
So
yeah.
is sugar a food derived from plants?
I don't think they go into specifics on which,
Well,
I don't even know if that it is a food derived. I don't know.
Well, I'm
but
not sure it's a food, but it becomes very interesting to me because, you know, some of this stuff is really broad. Last year, the Department of FDACS is for those who aren't playing the acronym game, Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. They don't do a whole lot of consumer services these days that I can see,
well,
but
they
do
regulate the
govern.
scale, like the scale and the gas pumps
Yeah,
to
okay, at
make
the
sure you're
gas
getting
pump
what you pay
and
for. So
that's a consumer service. I'll give them that. Okay, let's give them scales.
and well, they get the gas pumps and they get the deli meat at the at Publix. That's
That's
all
your
I'm gonna give them.
scales. Right, right,
There you
right.
go.
Well, and you know, they do ag enforcement, and certainly we don't want agriculture coming in from other states that hasn't been inspected. That's how you get invasive plants. And so I don't want to discount what the Department of Ag does for Floridians because they certainly do a lot. But Wilton Simpson just has a real bad taste in his mouth over the entire hemp industry. And I think that part of Commissioner Simpson's irritation is a problem of his own making. When we created the hemp program, and I was there and I was having discussions with them, and these lobbyists, they would let me get up and say, we're going to make rope. And that's probably not what we said, but you know, that this is an industrial product we can create, we can build with it, we can remediate with it, we can make food out of it. And those are the kind of products we talked about. And now looking back at 2014 and 2016 and 2018, when we were moving these bills, the regulated industry lobbyists were in there waiting for us to get through that so that they could have a whole bunch of clients that wanted to sell cannabis derived CBD or low or whatever, the hemp derived adult products. And that pisses them off. They wanted a new industry that was building blocks. And what they got was an over-the-counter cannabis space serving an adult market. So I can see why he's mad about it, but they should
Well,
have
I mean,
given
he
us an
didn't do
adult
it.
market from the
Like,
beginning.
let's be honest. Nikki was our commissioner of agriculture, and she helped us create the framework of the hemp industry that we have today. I think she had the great mindset, the forward thinking. She was outnumbered. She was the only democratically elected, person in the cabinet, and she was a blue among red. She came up with language for the hemp program, and we had implemented language for any renewable resource, non-ingestible, on your person, not in your person, and then food products. And it's regulated by food safety, which is part of
Exactly.
FDACS. The hemp
100%.
program is regulated by DPI, which is Department of Plant Industry. Brian Benson and the crew out in Alachua County, I know them very well. They make sure that the farmers can harvest appropriately at the right potency. So the program was active. It's just we weren't growing what everybody wanted us to grow, which would have been
What lawmakers wanted us to grow.
well, we did too. We wanted industrial,
I do.
but everyone went CBD because whatever reasons. And so he inherited this like out of control exploitation of the 2018 Farm Bill. And what Nikki had built, he wanted to then kind of tear down and bring the hammer down. But in this language, and I know why he's so mad that it was postponed, this language will go into the same language from the DOH bill about zoning restrictions. They will match. They're finally working together, but not for the program, in opposition of the program. It has language that will carry into cannabis, which they're allowed to do. They have permissions in 381 986 that includes nuisance odors, dispensary cultivation zoning locations, different scrutiny on ballot initiatives, legislative hesitation on adult use cannabis, expands inspection authority. It gets all of the extra stuff, that little like bug inside him that wants him to go and enforce and feel that power. He gets the opportunity to do it. And then it also, will hit on the intoxicating hemp industry and regulating the beverage side. So we missed it. Everybody missed it. No one's talking about it.
It doesn't say
until
hemp
now.
anywhere, right? It doesn't
No.
use the word hemp.
No.
Wow. And again, so we won't miss it. It does have to go through the Florida House of Representatives. Talk about turf wars. And really what Senator Pasadomo did is extraordinary. I
Yes.
don't know that I have ever
No.
seen, lawmakers aren't going to vote on it. But it certainly gave the committee members a feel for what the public is thinking about it.
Before they even
So-
got to hear the bill, they got to hear the public, which is unheard of. She's got
But-
the Brass Pear Award for this week. I'm going to give her Brass Pear Award for this week. And I
You
would
have
love
to
to have
be
given it to
excellent.
Valdez, but Valdez, her bill was solid. It was aces. The veterans bill, it was phenomenal, and it went through seamlessly. But yeah, to go and hear the public before the sponsor, unheard of. And
100%.
go Pasadomo. You go
100%. Show your
Pasadomo.
true stripes. Well, and glad to see that that maybe somebody is paying attention to that. And thank you, Cynthia, for bringing it to our attention. Are you following Matt Gaetz on X?
I don't follow anybody on X.
No,
But
you're
I
not
do
an
follow
Xer?
what's going on with Matt Gaetz and are you talking about his comments about the rescheduling imminency happening? Well, I feel like they're giving us, they had until the end of the month. All of this stuff is supposed to happen at the end of the month, like February 1st, Smart and Safe, January 31st for the rescheduling conversation. Pam Bondi misses her deadline because she can't keep a calendar. Matt Gaetz is giving us salacious tidbits. It's like they want us to get excited about the end of the month.
Huh.
For
Okay.
nothing.
And I'm like, the only reason we get excited at the end of the month is it's Dave's payday. But okay. No,
Yes.
there really is a lot going on. Matt Gaetz did say that federal rescheduling is going to move forward, something that the DEA is ready to move forward. So We'll see if Attorney General Bondi's office.
Yeah,
follows suit.
she's the one that's got to do the things. Matt Gaetz can just give us the tidbits and get us all like excitable,
Get
but
excited.
I
So
try
to
not to get excited about anything related to Matt Gaetz. I don't want to anger it or excite it. So
or
makes me-
you don't want to be on Matt Gates' radar. Is that what you're telling me? No, we've
No.
he when former Representative Matt Gaetz would be on the plane with then President Trump in the first term. Every time I would see something about Representative Gaetz on the plane, I would be like, he's talking to the Don about weed.
Oh, I
You
thought
just know
something
he
totally
is.
different. I thought every
Oh,
time he was on
no.
a plane, he was Venmoing underage girls. So I don't know. We all, I guess, potato, tomato, whatever. You think cannabis talk. I just don't think they're talking that much about cannabis. I think they have a different convo. But
Well, that is an interesting
interesting. Yeah,
speculation,
I knew you
and
were
I
going to
would
say
love
that.
to be a fly on the wall to figure
I'm
out
going to
which
start
one of this is
getting my
right.
pilot's license so I can eavesdrop on those conversations. So I think you
Right.
could be right, though.
Appreciate we've got some more folks that have popped in, and shout out to Mary Adams, who's back in the States. She's been working in Georgia. Appreciate you, Mary. I see that Bill McCulley popped in from Tallahassee. Appreciate seeing you. Also from Tallahassee is Dale Clark, who's been there representing the Libertarian Party. Appreciate you very much. I mentioned that the Grateful Veterans were with us. I see that Steve Edmonds has popped in and said hi. So thank you all for everyone who is tuning in and watching, sharing, liking, passing around elevated intel. We do try to get into the depths of it. It's legislative session, so a lot of the things that we want to talk about have to do with what's happening in Tallahassee. I asked Hector what he wanted to hear this week, and he said, well, we got to talk about this week in legislation. And of course, I want federal rescheduling to happen. Today, I did a little video. I think the thing that's probably most disturbing to me is what's happening with Smart and Safe.
Is
This
it?
is bad.
Is it?
Yeah, it really
Here's
is
the
bad.
thing. I stopped getting surprised at all of the nonsense because it's like a telenovela. That's why we called the
It's a
episode.
telenovela.
What is making you so upset? And then I will make it worse.
Well, I actually, if you are tuning in from the Jacksonville area, you can watch. There'll be a segment tonight on the Action Jacksonville that they did with me today. So
You
I
talked about
spoke
Smart and
to.
Safe with them?
We did. I talked about Smart and Safe because I really am concerned about this. So I participated in constitutional amendments. Literally, one of the first things that I was doing in the mid 90s, like 95, was wandering around with a clipboard collecting signatures for Floridians for medical rights, right? Because that was the approach we were taking that first time. And then we did a treatment over incarceration initiative that was funded by some of the big wigs and like out west. Progressive insurance guy funded some of that. So, that's been 2 decades ago. We worked on the pre-K initiative. So initiatives is something I'm pretty familiar with. And of course, I was the chairperson of Floridians for Freedom, which was a political action committee seeking a ballot position. So I know how challenging this has been, and I have watched the last 10 years as the Florida legislature has shrunk and the opportunity for the citizens to be heard through the petition process. And so I think that I'm very proud of Smart and Safe. They are going to court to defend every petition. They've had
don't have
more
a
than
choice.
200. Well, they've had more than two. Well, they do. They could have just gone out and collected more signatures.
Well,
There's
so
more signers out there.
if you look at the hurdles last year, they came after Supreme Court review when it was already going to be on the ballot, right before everyone was voting. DeSantis decided to take that money and to start his anti-Amendment 3 campaign, commercials, press conferences with sheriffs. And he actually got a lot of people to vote in opposition of the way they were going to vote because of what he said, even though it wasn't exactly factual. He convinced them enough of them, which I think it did significantly affect the outcome. But now
100% of 2024's Amendment
yes,
3.
yes,
Right.
and it didn't pass.
100%.
They got right back onto the, the wagon. They decided to put more money, and if you got it, I guess spend it, spend it. Yeah,
Well,
sure.
Opening up the Florida marijuana market so that adults are protected under law for using cannabis products is pretty valid.
But it's also not
even-
necessary for them because they're making money hand over fist. They don't have to make this
They
their
don't have
give
to
a damn.
spend it. They don't
No,
have to.
but they did.
So the first 200,000 signatures that the Secretary of Elections threw out, they said they were on the wrong form. And I am totally angry about that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that as soon as the initiative was lost at the ballot box by less than 4%, right?
Yeah.
Less than 4%.
We need a super majority. We need that 60% to pass a citizen random ballot.
And some change. The governor directed millions of dollars, well over 10 million, because we can track the first 10. We don't know how much he spent with the Department of Law Enforcement doing those press conferences, don't drive high, all of that was your tax dollars. Now fast forward, the Smart and Safe campaign, they send a petition that's already filled out that looks exactly like the form that's been approved. Because, before they ever sent out the first one, they sent it to the Secretary of Elections and they approved it.
Yes.
But in the middle of the campaign, the legislature changes the form. And so they invalidate the first 200,000.
Right. So the first part that Jodi's talking about was a direct mailer to addressees of the original petition where you fill out your info. They took that and they said, we're going to send it to the people that already said yes and get them to say yes.
It.
I think they received so many responses that the supervisor of elections were like, oh shit. So like this is
200,000.
Well, I'm so quickly because they stopped that right after they started it. So they didn't even get to get going and get people more and more out there. They sent an initial run of 200,000 and they saw them come back. And I think they got nervous because all of this Smart and Safe setbacks that we're seeing just days ahead of this February 1st deadline, the signature deadline, like the state officials have just invalidated 70,000 petition signatures, citing alleged fraud of out-of-state circulators, discrepancies involving unregistered voters, mismatched addresses. But they also had the moratorium on collecting. The language doesn't match up. So those are voided and they kept trucking. Then you've got
inactive voters. They kicked out 41,000 inactive voters.
Yep.
And inactive voter just means you haven't voted in the last election cycle.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that like you are like gone and haven't been there for 20 years.
Right.
It's less than 2 cycles before they take you off the rolls. So somebody who hasn't voted in 7 years isn't allowed to sign this petition.
But that wasn't there before. Like all of these currently correcting our records is what the supervisor of election is claiming that they're doing. We are currently correcting our records. I think they have a bunch of signatures that are not being counted on the website, which was another issue Smart and Safe had. The active signature count was not being updated. The cord bird was not providing the language to the Supreme Court after they hit the threshold to instigate like Supreme Court review. He didn't give it to them, which is his job. Then you've got the supervisor of elections pulling some nonsense with the moratorium and then forcing everyone to hurry up and validate, but also saying we need to really revalidate, not invalidate. We need to revalidate a bunch because some people could have voter ineligibility. They could have inactivity. They could be revoked circulator. They could have a notice of fraud. There could be a suspicion of fraud from a petition gatherer that's like stalling some approvals as well. And 9 people have been arrested.
No, actually the arrest count is going up.
I heard 9 today. The last one
15
was
I have 15 arrests with 46 criminal charges. But
so you're counting last year and this year. I'm only counting this year. This one. Last year had like Amendment 3 has arrests happening, but for this one, for whatever they're gonna call this one, the second attempt, they've got 9, and then last year would make 15.
so one of the things that has changed in the last decade, the last time I worked on a petition, if you got a petition from somebody in Brevard County, which is where I live, and the person had signed the petition, and where it says county, they put USA. We used to would have put Brevard because we knew their address was Brevard County. They live in Melbourne, they have to be Brevard County. So then they got a little more sophisticated and voter registration rules were available. And then if you had a little bit of money in your campaign, you would hire somebody to go through and validate for you in advance. You
Before
would go
you
through
submitted them to the
before you
supervisor.
submit it. Look, this ballot's not 100% complete. They didn't put their birth date or their voter registration number. Put that one to the side. It's no good. If we have lots of money, we might reach that voter and ask him to correct it. Or if we have a really strong grassroots campaign where you can get to voters in each county, you might do something like that. I've worked on those kind of petitions, but they've changed the law, so we can't do any of that.
Yeah.
So that's the really disturbing part is every signature that we collect, we have to turn in. So if I am the sponsor of the petition, Smart and Safe, and I notice that this one particular petition gatherer is turning in stuff that looks funny, I don't have any choice but to turn them in.
But get rid of them.
Okay. But that takes time. I mean, there's a process.
Not with
soon as you
something
realize
so
it-
sensitive. This is a sensitive.
You might not even know for weeks. That's what I'm saying. You do
Yeah.
get rid of them as soon as you realize.
Yeah.
But again, you're going to have petitions. People are going to sign from the wrong address. They haven't updated their voter registration. When I went in today, and I went to the supervisor of elections today, I wanted to make sure, because that first 200,000's been disqualified. I wanted to make sure that my signature was in the bank for Smart and Safe.
And you have to go to the supervisor to verify that.
I went to the supervisor of election in my county.
Mhm.
I insisted that they show me my signatures on file. I signed it to make sure that it looked like the signature on file. And they made sure I had all 5 pages. Because if you didn't have all 5 pages, they weren't going to accept your petition.
So I know that they didn't accept mine at because I got a mailer and it came directly to me. I also got 2 mailers, which doesn't make sense for a household of 1 voter. So like that part was also kind of scandalous for people that received it in the mail. You got one that was filled out with your information, and you got one that wasn't filled out. So it kind of left it open for like people to be like, oh, I'll just fill out 2, and then they won't catch it. It's not like they didn't catch it. They would have caught it. But
100%.
the arrests that are happening and that have happened in the past, I mean, Hector corrected me because we had a conversation, but I don't believe that the scrutiny and the attention and the like extra nonsense that they're putting Smart and Safe through is anything compared to any other citizen ran ballot initiative that has been introduced to the public for voting. They have treated this differently than others. They have scrutinized people. They are making active arrests, which scare petition gatherers out of doing the job. The last one was a 41-year-old woman in South Florida accused of being of voter information collection fraud because she was, like you said, completing the forms on behalf of the signers when they would leave something blank. How she got caught, probably someone saw her filling in the county Brevard or whatever, just like you said you would do. And that's now she's arrested. Now, whether or not that's going to stick is yet to be seen, but they have spent so much time early before Supreme Court review, and the deadline for signatures is the 1st, right? They only update the number on Mondays. So Monday's number 600 or 760,000, whatever, we won't know if they hit their threshold until after the deadline.
100%.
And then we have a hearing.
And Thursday at 9:30, Smart and Safe is going to be arguing their petition in front of the Supreme Court.
Two
So
activities
for those
unrelated.
of you who are in Tallahassee, we'll be sitting in the courtroom with folks from Smart and Safe. Yeah, everybody wants clean and fair elections. So having a Bureau of Election Fraud and Integrity, or election integrity, that was developed by Governor DeSantis in the last couple of years, I can see why we would want to ensure fair elections. But I think fair elections means counting every vote, not just the votes that you want to count. And I think that a fair and clean election doesn't mean using the heavy hand of government to tip the scales. And the millions of dollars, tax dollars that were spent to persuade voters in the 2024 election was nothing short of criminal. And maybe we'll wait until the grand jury indictments actually come out to say that it was actually criminal.
He took money that would belong to Florida, like Floridians, and used it for his bidding.
It was Florida's attorney general. Don't worry about it. It must be legal.
Okay, you're right.
So, and of course, Pam Bondi is the U.S. attorney general. Who are we going to complain to?
We've got two bills that match each other in the House and the Senate about government misconduct that outlines exactly what he did and how to hold him accountable. It is an accountability and misconduct bill. Two people matching. I can't wait to hear them. I hope they hear them. They probably won't even get on committee.
Never going anywhere.
I know.
If you want to be heard on this, and David Stokes commented on my post earlier that this is all kind of a pre-planned, pre-scripted, and you said you hope that we don't know if the charges are going to stick with this lady that's fraud because she helped. It is illegal if you are collecting a signature and the person has Parkinson's and can barely write. It is illegal for you to pick up the pen and fill in the information for them and then let them sign it. Yeah. And a compassionate person would not say I am committing fraud by doing that. A compassionate person would say I am not torturing this person whose Parkinson's is so bad that they can't hold the pen.
And what's going to end up happening, which is the harsh truth, is that if you let them do it the legal way, let them complete the form with the shaky Parkinson's, that form will then be invalidated because they cannot read it. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
You can go to the supervisor of elections like I did today and make sure that your signature matches. They can show you their screen. I was in and out. The hardest part of going to the local supervisor of elections today was finding a parking spot. It took me about a minute and a half. I ended up being almost 150 feet from the door.
In Titusville, you can just practically reach out of your car. There's always spots. Nobody goes there.
Ours is part of a government building where you get your tags and there's cops. And so, but it was literally less than 2 miles from my house, and in and out, and a minute and a half video, less than 8 minutes. I was able to see what my signature looked like. They were able to confirm that my signature is going to get counted.
To do this? Like the deadline is Sunday. People left right now before they close at what? 5?
They closed at 5. They closed at 5.
Everything is done. Whatever the future holds, we already have it mapped out. There's nothing we can do.
Schrodinger's cat. The petition is both on the ballot and not on the ballot. We have both enough signatures and not enough signatures.
Jodi talks with her hands and her computer thinks she's raising her hand. So it's hilarious. Just all of a sudden high fives there. There's nothing anybody can do. Smart and Safe can do. There's nothing right now. If that supervisor of elections that was holding up for revalidation got their way, and that 760 number does not get up to 880 by Sunday, and if who's counting them in the meantime, it's not like they work weekends, then it's done. But the hearing continues because that is a separate activity, the hearing and the count of the votes.
And I think
petitions.
it'll be interesting to find out whether or not they had to be submitted by February 1st or validated by February 1st. Because submitted is an action of the campaigns, validated is an action of the supervisor of elections. So I had my driver's license. The supervisor of elections saw that my signature on my petition was definitely me. But she said in order for that signature to be validated, it has to be scanned in, a computer has to do some matching. So there's like some mechanisms.
I think it's
And
verified because I'm looking at my
Where
notes here off camera, and my
I would
notes,
sue.
my
I hope
notes.
she sues.
She's going to. She doesn't go. Okay, Kim Rivers is a beast, and good, bad, or ugly. Like she
Say what
is
you will.
not going down without a fight, and she also, Hector and I speculated about how far would you go when you've spent so much, and she's 10 steps ahead of all of us. So
100%.
I think she might need to pull some GOP phone a friend contacts from Washington and say, can you get down here and fix this mess?
So is this a turf war between the president and Ron DeSantis? Could
That's
there
what
be
I
some-
said, and Hector said I was wrong.
Okay, well, we love Hector and we appreciate what he has to say. I did think it was cute this week. The new Fed chair, President Trump, said that he was right out of central casting. And
Is that a
I am
compliment?
well, I think so, and I hope so because I am a fan of Kim Rivers, and when you look at what's happening at the federal level and what's happening around President Trump and rescheduling and the role that Kim and people like Kim, she's right out of central casting. So I think she's perfect for the role.
She's a
Perfect for the
strategic,
role.
like you love her or hate her, no matter
Perfect
what.
for the
She is a
role.
businesswoman. He's a businessman, and they are two peas in a pot. I can see a
Perfect for the
TV
role.
show spinoff happening, which I would totally
Ah.
watch with popcorn and enthusiasm. I would invite people over. I can see like almost like the Odd Couple kind of thing. Sorry, Melania, but like no matter what, she's a businesswoman. She's made a metric F ton of money on cannabis and also helped the cannabis space while she's
100%.
going to make her money. And she's got the money to help us get an adult use program or attempt 2 times over, even though she's printing money with the medical program. So I think she is too smart to be that dumb not to have a second plan or a backup plan.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to see how it unfolds after the weekend with the hearing next
Plan
week.
A.
But something is going to come out and
Plan
just
B.
wipe everything that we thought off of the map.
Plan
And it's going to be
C.
amazing.
All
This
right.
is the telenovela of Tallahassee. This is like
Southern White House, man. Everything that is happening in politics and cannabis is happening centric to Florida. Who's talking
there's
about
one
it?
thing I got that's not Florida.
Matt Gaetz. Oh, you got something's
No,
happening, not
Forget
Florida.
Matt Gaetz. We have talked enough about Matt Gaetz, and now I need to wash my hands. But like, he makes me feel sticky. Like I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair
Very
enough.
very nice. I like do your thing, government, whatever. But like just,
friendly.
like on like outside of the thing, I feel sticky looking at him. One national story which I thought you might get excited about. Anoka, Minnesota. Anoka, Minnesota, right?
Right.
Okay.
Hotbed of cannabis
I
activity.
mean, like, yeah, it's just a hotbed. Okay. They just had their very first government run retail cannabis dispensary open.
That is fascinating, isn't it?
It's an experiment for sure to see how cities can handle legal cannabis, but it's also kind of government taking their part of the pie and attempting to run their own cannabis dispensary.
So
What the actual F?
So this is the way Canada does it, though, right? So Canada, alcohol. I had a client for a while who had a winery in Canada, and he said that in order for him to sell to Canadian liquor stores, that they were all state-run stores. So he could be a private winemaker.
Yep.
And sell to the public, but it had to be through that third party.
I like this idea, and I'll tell you
Okay.
why. If it was cannabis and I have the lab space under control. Let's say you're a grower, okay? And you shop your lab. You go to the lab that gives you the best results, right? Okay.
100%.
Or you have strict competition, all right, with other MMTCs because there's only so many patients, right? There is that. This is real life.
It's a
Lab
finite
shopping,
program.
lab shifting, competition. How do you alleviate all of the nefarious behavior that you don't want if it's a medical program? You say the government has to sell it to the patients. And so the government is not going to pick the highest potency. They're not going to pick like this grower over that one. They have to take a little bit of everybody. And then we no longer have to worry about being fired for giving results that are realistic. We are not contingent on our success being our clients liking us, not being a good lab. That would alleviate that as well. It would be very even, but it would not be great for MMTCs. No.
Well, if as an MMTC, I did not have to do everything from seed to sale, I could concentrate on concentrates if that's
But you
what I'm
can't
really
jack
good
up
at.
the price for your concentrate.
That's
If you
true.
believe it's $60, the state's gonna
100%.
say, I'm only buying that from you for like $20. So like take it or leave it.
100%. 100%. It definitely changes the market, and that's what they've seen in Canada. Ohio did state-run liquor stores. So, in the great experiment of the states, I'm really excited to see what poor Minnesota, man.
Anoka. Who would have thought
Wow.
Anoka, Minnesota is the one just like trailblazing?
Okay. Well, Minnesota needs a win.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I hope to see that this
Tough times.
experiment goes well. I'm not a fan of the vertically integrated market and vertical requirements. Florida
None of
Cannabis
us.
Action Network is actively seeking people who can help us fund a challenge to the vertical integration. We think that the issue is ripe to go before the Florida Supreme Court again. And the step limiting factor for Florida Cannabis Action Network in breaking vertical integration is not the plan, it's writing the check to cover the plan. So if your law firm is interested in this issue, if your business model is interested in this issue, we got a lot of people who are happy with the status quo in business the way it is. And there are more people who are not happy with the status quo
You think they're
and business the way
happy
it
with
is.
the way it is because they don't know what it's like to be in a unvertical market?
100%. Well, and there are people, and when this program was first coming together and there was no decision about vertical or not vertical, I had farmers telling me that they liked the idea of being in a vertical market because then they weren't so dependent on how much the distributor wanted to pay.
Right.
You mentioned I can't sell for $60 if my distributor will only pay 20. So they liked the idea.
All 5 of the
I don't.
OGs, the original 5 families, the cartel 5 families, which is not a great term, but that's what they called it, the original 5. Everybody else was a litigation licensure. We know that. The 5 originals wanted vertical integration.
Golden ticket.
They didn't. They were like, absolutely sign me up. Where's the dotted line? Because it is a license to print money. And when you only have 5 licenses with all of the Florida patient opportunity, you're like, I'm going to cash checks early because I'm going to be a lot of millionaire. Yes.
Then why is my True Leaf stock not doing any better than it is? No, but the lawmakers liked vertical integration too.
Because if they mess up, you pluck one company off of the landscape and toss it, and now everything is taken care of. If you sell a product that is unsafe for human consumption, I only have to do one activity, one company, exclude, everything shut down.
100%.
I look like I carried everything out perfectly. I am enforcement of the year. But the problem is they are not checking to make sure that those companies are efficiently and effectively doing the vertically integrated dance.
Everything that we expect them to do. All right, I think we're going to wrap up for this afternoon.
I'm exhausted, so yes.
Then
all of this
time.
Democracy and paperwork, I just can't.
Up with their
It's
heads.
Friday. Yes.
All right. And I hope you have something fabulous planned for your Friday.
Absolutely not.
We
gonna go buy some weed.
There you go. Well, that's something fabulous. Our friends in the Naples area, and Tara DeMond, she is one of our members. She's helping Trulieve open another store down there. So if you are in the Naples area, you can go get some swag at the Trulieve opening.
Swag or swag?
Swag. Okay.
Swag is bad weed. Swag is like
Oh, no,
promotional products.
no. Promotional products, life's too short to smoke bad weed. And
Yeah.
on that note, I think that's all the wisdom that we can dish out on
Very
a
good.
Friday. Thank you very much for tuning in, sharing,
Congratulations,
liking,
Grateful
telling your
veteran,
friends.
on your bill.
100%. Absolutely. Thank you, Colette Florido, our vice president, for tuning in, and Jennifer Macris, our
J-Mac.
director of JMac, says, fun fact. Dale, it was good to see you here. Thank you, Dale Clark, for sticking with us. And these days we're doing a short clip on Wednesdays, couple minutes about what your actions you can take every week. We'll do that following our legislative meeting. And then you can get in the weeds with Cynthia and I.
Oh, I was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, you are. You're doing it every Friday. It's fabulous. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Friday.
Bye. Just stop throwing so much paper.
No, don't.
Imagine standing shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of Floridians, business owners, and advocates inside the state capitol, ready to make real change. That's what Cannabis at the Capitol is all about. The signature Lobby Day and Education Expo from the Florida Cannabis Action Network, where voices intersect with policy and passion turns into progress. For just $50 for individuals, you'll gain access to expert briefings, self-guided meetings with lawmakers, and the power to influence Florida's cannabis future. For businesses, $300 unlocks premium access. Connect with decision makers, showcase your enterprise, and build alliances in a fast-growing sector. Whether you're a medical patient seeking stronger access, an entrepreneur navigating regulations, or a company ready to stand at the forefront of industry change, this is your platform. One day in Tallahassee could shift a lifetime of regulation. Join us. Be present. Be heard. Be the change at Cannabis at the Capitol.